Yes. Should we welcome Christy formally?
Yes.
Okay, I guess it's 8 o'clock. Should we start? Ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is the June 8th meeting of the Ahrb, and the next meeting will be held on June 22nd. We have a few applications this evening, about 4. Why don't we start with the first one, which is 65 Walgrove Avenue. It's a sunroom addition.
Yes, I just promoted Spencer Leaf to a panelist.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Spencer?
I think I'm, there we go. Hold on. Hi.
Hey, Spencer.
How are you? So as we left at the last meeting, the design was pretty much approved. We were just deciding whether to proceed with a suggested design study or keep with the previously proposed design. We looked at both, and the clients felt that the previously proposed design had a little bit more of connection to the rest of the house. And the sunroom being sort of set back around the corner was harder to draw that connection to. So they wanted to proceed with the pitched roof over the garage. I did update the drawings to include some more detail that had been part of the design, but the drawings hadn't illustrated very clearly. So the 6/6 windows and shutters are now shown at all windows on the front location, as well as the window in the over the garage door to help balance the proportion of that garage element a little bit. The one other change that we made to the drawings, there was an existing side stair from a mudroom, which we are now eliminating and relocating that side door to enter the garage. So it's essentially the same side door that's there currently, just shifted over slightly, and the side stairs are going away, with the staircase now being in the garage.
Okay. Any neighbors? Any comments or any other? Okay, I'll jump in first. Spencer, thank you. The application is very clear. I think that the change, if I remember correctly, you have a round window.
Yes.
Over the garage door. So the square window, I think it fits better. It kind of ties this little garage better to the rest of the house. And I have no problems with this application to approve it as submitted. Great. So anybody else? Brandon?
I agree. Bill? I don't. I think it landed in the right place.
Okay, thank you.
Dale, you good? So I'll make a motion to approve as submitted this application. Do I have a second?
Second, I hear.
1 seconds. All in favor? Thank you, Spencer. Good luck and stay healthy.
Great, thank you. You too.
Okay, the next application on this evening is 39 Hamilton Street.
I see two people I'm gonna put to panelists. Tracy Becker and Jack
No.
DeValiers.
No, not Tracy Becker.
Oh, not Tracy Becker, I'm sorry.
No. Just the ones from Regency.
Oh, that was my mistake. That's the only one I see. Is there another one, Dan?
No, is Joanne on there?
I don't see Joanne.
Let me see.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, she just hold on.
Okay.
She just popped in. Jack, can you hear us? Joanna, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Are we waiting for anybody else?
See, Jack is on. I'm not sure if Frankie or Dino has joined. Let me just check through. Forgive me some background noise. I have my children in the background. I don't see them joining it. I actually forwarded them the meeting invite just now, so give me 1 second. Let me just make sure that they've received it. Thank you for your patience. My apologies. Okay, I've sent them a message. I'm not sure if they've are hopping on momentarily, but we can get started. And Jack, if you agree, we can get started without them. Otherwise, if you want to wait a few more minutes. Jack, you're on, right? I see his name, but well, anyway, you have me. How are you all doing tonight?
We're good. I'm good under the circumstances. How are
I
you?
understand. Let me pull up my screen. We were going to have Frankie Campione, who you met last meeting, present, but I'm happy to pull it up while we're waiting. And I apologize, you don't have anything in hand, but I'm happy to drop things off. I don't know if you're accepting them in person, but I hope that you receive the PDFs of the material boards. Do you all have that?
No, they don't have that. That wasn't sent out yet.
Okay. Well, if you'd like, I can pull it up on our screen and we can walk through it. Otherwise, I can also send it via email to everyone because I think I have everyone on an email. But give me just one moment. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, you could share the screen.
Great.
Hey, Joanne, Jack DeVilliers here. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Great.
So I know that Dino and Frankie, Jack, just so you know, I sent them the invite. I know we hadn't received it till like a few minutes ago or a few minutes before the meeting, so I'm hoping they saw the message. I forwarded it to them. But if you agree, Jack, in the interim, I can start to pull up what we have sent over, which is the material boards.
Yes, I think Frankie's joining in here shortly. He just texted me. He was having a little bit of technical difficulties, but it sounds like he's jumping on.
So just to understand one thing, the drawings that I received, I'm reviewing now are drawings dated end of February. Those are the drawings that we are reviewing tonight.
So the drawings you have haven't changed. The only thing we did was add a material board that showed the specific paint colors and materials that we'll be applying to that same
Excellent.
rendering.
So my question to you is, because is this in this application? Because I didn't see a material board, and the entire application is in black and white.
Right, and that's my apologies. I didn't realize that we would be on tonight, so I have it in
Okay,
hand.
so why don't we do it then? Let's do this. Just brief us on what's the status of the application, where are you guys with the material that we requested, and so we gain some time and make use of, good use of the time that we have together now. And then when you submit the boards and the color panels that, for proper review, then we'll continue this application. Make sense? Hello?
Yes, definitely, makes sense.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, hey, Larry, just quick question for me, because as we left it last, really the only comment was that you wanted a material board, and therefore that's really what we would be presenting this evening. Is
Okay.
just the material board. You guys can review the exact material that's going on each facade. So therefore that's really the purpose of this hearing. And if you had any changes or didn't like any of the colors or the materials,
Jack,
we could still look at it.
it's like, we like to receive the material ahead of our review or our meeting, just so we can look at it and, develop an opinion for the meeting. But let's give it a try. Usually it's, a few days, a weekend before the meeting, we receive the materials for review. But let's talk in general and about, what the intentions are, and then let's go to specifics.
I think there were also a couple minor comments regarding some of the wayfinding signage and duplication of some signage in terms of where it laid out or where it was, as well as the necessity for crosswalk signage, on the actual street. So I think there were a couple additional comments that were made, not just from a material standpoint, but also from making sure that the drawings were updated to show clarity with some of those other items.
Yes, and not only that, the application also was in black and white, and we needed an application in at least that we can understand what the color palette is and what we are approving. And the second, and other things, there were issues of landscaping and et cetera.
Yes, and just so you know, we have the signage package, the murals, all of that we expected to come back with a little bit more in detail when we got to that, because the murals is something that is
Yeah,
we're not ready to present yet. So I hear you, Brandon. We definitely see and have a comment on duplicative signage, and the actual names that were in the signage you saw previously were not set in stone. It was just more of a placeholder. We didn't specify which tenant would be where. So we will be sure to submit that. And I think we're just not prepared yet for that mural and signage.
That's fine. That's fine.
But there was a particular sign.
We can make it. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
There was a particular sign that was located directly adjacent to the Chauncey Square sign. And we expressed a concern over the amount of information in that corner and whether those two things were in conflict with each other. And we haven't seen anything that would demonstrate that they're not.
And I agree with that. I think that sign is very close to the Chauncey Square. And I think when we get to that stage, we'll have to work in conjunction with Chauncey Square or maybe eliminate that one sign. And I know we have a Board of Trustees meeting that will have to talk of the right-of-way signs, and that one in particular is a part of that. So we definitely hear you, and we will make sure that that's addressed so it's not duplicative or too close to Chauncey. But if you don't mind, we'd love to start with, and if Frankie's not joined yet, I have actually the PDF that shows the materials, and we can make this meeting the focus on the materials and the colors that we've chosen so that you guys are on board with that.
Okay.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So Jack, if you don't see them on yet, which I haven't, do you mind if I share the PDF? Yeah, Jen.
I'm sorry, Frankie just joined. I'm going to promote him to a panelist.
Oh, great.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. Get me off the hook here.
Mhm.
Frankie, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Frankie. You have Jack and Joanna here as well, and the entire board.
No pressure. Just coming from one Zoom meeting to the next. Sorry about that, gang.
No pressure. We've laid the ground for you, so I can get you up to speed. So we were just discussing some of the comments from the last meeting and how we were focusing this meeting on the material board and what we were presenting as far as color schemes and physical materials. And we were going to discuss the signage and the murals in the next meeting when we're prepared and have that ready, because this is a big discussion and we want to make sure we get it right when it comes to those two items. And we think we'd like to start with these material boards. And if you don't mind sharing your screen with that specific 7-page, and I will distribute that following this meeting in color. And I also have printed copies in color. And if you guys are accepting packages, I can actually drop it off tomorrow if you're able to receive that in the office.
Yeah, I will gladly, I would prefer to receive a copy.
Absolutely. I have it already
I
prepared
can
and we'll drop it off
pick it
tomorrow.
up from Dan, or we can arrange that later.
We have a Dropbox right across from the police station. You could drop it in.
Okay, great. I'll do that tomorrow for sure. Just to reiterate, there's 12 copies I think I was requested previously. That works?
We don't need that many anymore. We could do 8.
Great. Well, you'll have extra.
Okay.
Okay, Frankie, you're on.
And Joanna, you're talking about the 3 PDFs from earlier today that you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, so I think we'll just focus on the one with the material boards, that 7-page one. The other 2, I think, were related to the Board of Trustees and right-of-way, so we can just focus on that latest right-of-way. I mean, I'm sorry, not right-of-way. It says I'm muted. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
I did not. Which 7-page
Do you
PDF?
hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, okay, great.
But I don't have the
let me see
7-page
the name of
PDF.
the file. Hold on a second. So the name of the file says 2020 6/1 1647 Rivertown's Material Board 004 PDF. I can pull it up and share my screen and walk you through it if you'd like.
Yeah, if you've got it readily available, that'd be great to pull it up.
Sure. Yeah. I'm going to mute and unmute because my son is jumping on a bed in front of me, so I apologize.
And I see that Dino just came in as well.
Can you all see my screen? And Frankie, do you see this as well?
I do. Thank you.
Great. This is page 1. So if you don't mind taking away, and as you walk through it, I can change the pages.
Sure. On the last meeting, and thank you very much for pulling it up. Apologize, I didn't have that one ready. On the last meeting, there was conversation about the colors and specifically which colors are going on what building, what materials, and any amenities. So we tried to do is clarify all the elevations, simplify the colors, and really be more specific for you, so you can see below the actual PT colors or the paint colors of the Revive It, which is the material to be painted over the existing Drive It on the facade, the different shades of white and gray and charcoal, if you will. If you recall, we had discussed on the last meeting that this is so we could play with a little depth perception shade with a forced shade and shadow. So those are all been clarified across the front, as well as the blacks on the bottom. The signage remained the same from our last meeting. And then the amenities are in the bottom right-hand corner, which is just off your screen, or at least just off my screen. Joanna, there you go. So the proposed amenities for the outdoor area in front of the new Mom's Market. Same thing as we go to the upper level above Mom's, the Lombardo's elevation, we'll be sticking with the same amenities. What we've done is we've tailored each of the amenities to that sheet. So if an element is or is not used, it drops on and off the sheet, and the same with the paint colors. Again, you know, we were, if you remember, I think the last presentation we had close to 30 colors off the top of my head, or definitely 20 some odd, and it was a little bit confusing as to what was going on where. They all stay within the same color palette, but the tones are modified.
And just to also point out in the last slide, the signage, again, those names that are positioned there are not set in stone, and we will make sure to address that in the next meeting.
The Buddha restaurant, as if you may recall, we had talked about this jokingly as sort of the Cinderella's castle at the end of Main Street, the first element that you'll see when you drive up through the roundabout. So we want to give that an all new look, eliminating those arches by putting the metal slats over the front, and then on the side, and then the outdoor dining opportunity, and then the mural art that Joanna talked about earlier, which would be on the side of the building facing back towards the exit of the parking garage and the windows from the lobby of the hotel, second floor above.
And if you all need me to zoom in at any point, you let me know. If you need to see the names of the materials or colors, let me know.
The wood color of the slats, is that represented in that image?
Go back, Joanna.
Are they wood grain? I think you said they were longwood.
So,
They are.
so if I recall, they're not actually wood. They're just colored like wood, if that's right.
Yeah,
Frank.
that's correct.
But they're, I believe you said the product was longwood, which is a
Longwood.
wood grain.
You are correct, and that is not appearing on this elevation. So if we
I
need
just
to,
wondered what species you were looking at. I think they have a limited range, so I just wondered what you were thinking went with the palette.
this was a gray tone, and I apologize that it is not here, but we will get that either the physical sample for you or update this sheet for you.
So you're thinking it's like a weathered piece of, yeah, physical sample would be great, but you're thinking it's like a weathered kind of grayish wood tone? Is that what I'm
Correct.
hearing?
Correct.
All right.
Like a weathered teak.
Okay.
The Ulta building actually works quite well with their branding colors, with the white, which Ulta prefers, a little bit of the gray and the charcoal black at the top. And then the side of the building on the left-hand side gives us the opportunity, which I think is the next sheet, for more, or no, I guess it's not, but on the side of the building on the left gives you opportunity for mural. Sorry about that, Joanna.
Is there a reason why the Chipotle and the AT&T don't get awnings?
Well, they don't have awnings now, and I mean, we could technically offer it to them, but I think for whatever reason they prefer not to, but we're happy to ask if they'd like it. I think personally it adds some depth to the building and not making it so straight across the same, but whatever you suggest, we're willing to offer.
I was just questioning if there was some strategy that was employed.
They were removed. At one point, we had talked about internally doing a horizontal element there, but because there was nothing there currently, we just assumed the tenants didn't want them. But as Joanna says, if you think architecturally it's needed, we would just go back to the tenant and get their opinion and could implement something, whether it's fabric awning or something else.
I don't know if it's needed, but maybe it's a decision that you guys have to make if it's worth exploring.
I know both Chipotle and AT&T likes to see the activity that goes on within their space, so that might hinder a little bit of the activity. I mean, who knows with these days how much activity you'll see in there, but that's some of what they prefer in the past. But
My sense tells me that I agree with my sense is that it will be good to have a continuation of awnings for uniformity. Will create because it seems like they didn't have enough money for the awnings at the Chipotle or AT&T, so they're trying to save the money for the awning. But it definitely adds to the depth of the facade. But it's it's your decision. My sense tells me that it's needed. It's like missing, but so it's up to you. It's a suggestion. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fair enough.
thank you.
The next one is the base of the hotel. As you know, Regency only controls the retail base. We had talked about changing the sign band to a bright white, and then the awnings would change to what you see here, which has got a little bit more play in it, but still within the same colorway. The fabric awning has a little bit of a red tint to it, not just the gray and blacks, to pick up the red brick of the existing building.
Let me know if that's zoomed in enough to see that depth. Happy to go in more.
Well, and again, you sort of have spaced out the awnings, so they seem like there are a couple teeth missing. If you know, looking at that, it seems position 1, position 4, 5, and then there's more skips to it, and then further on. And I'm just wondering if
they're
there's
occurring where the actual
logic.
doors of the tenants are.
Okay.
So some of the tenants are double wide or triple wide, so we don't have them in between where there's no door.
So the two locations that don't have it, so you'll see the two tenant names. There's a vacancy there, as you may recall, next to my gym. And then the Menchie's is the vacant on the end. And then one to the right. I don't recall if that's a part of Lux Nails. Oh, actually, that's a part of Learning Experience.
So when I see it, when I look across the entire elevation, it's such a regular elevation that's very regimented and formal. And then there's a bunch of signage, which is all different. And then you've introduced a new element that's another different element. But that doesn't tie it all back together again. So that's what I'm responding to.
I tend to agree with Dale's reaction. I think that, look, again, it's a constructive discussion. I think that the pure white that you're using, it kind of brings another layer of understanding of the building. I don't know if the white that you're using is the right tone. Could be white, but the white that we see in this presentation, you might need to explore a different white.
That's missing with this. So there's a brick behind it, as you can see to the right all the way on Lux Nails. And when you add that white on top of the brick, it adds a dimension that doesn't get caught with this image. And we actually have a building in Westport that might pick this up. I could send some images of what that looks like. So I think it won't be so stark white as you see on your screen. With the brick, it really adds a little bit more dimension. But I hear you on the proposed amenities sign here with the and if you
just for me, it's not only the brick. You have there the rhythm of the columns, which is, I don't know, it's an off gray color or beige, and then you have the top of the hotel, which is another creamy. And I think that you should be careful with the selection of the color, just not to create too much of a contrast. Just to compare to the other slide on the AT&T facade, or what, that you have the colors. It's really the awnings are doing something that might be independent, but it works better. Even if you just choose to do like a blue canopy for the AT&T, I would say, or just to break a little the uniformity. But on the other one, the text or the signage jumps all over. And I think it's kind of, there are too many dissimilar components trying to work together and competing with each other.
So would you think that having the awnings be more uniformed here versus it being the dark one and the red, and you'd prefer to see
No,
maybe?
I don't use the words I prefer. I just react to what you're showing us, and I think my suggestion again is for you guys to play a little bit. I think that you need a tone on the awnings that will kind of neutralize and make it more um, um, like a background, not jumping in the front, but it's a back and the front, it's like sending the awning color back to give the signage some prominence. For example, my gym is, maybe it's the graphics that you're using and maybe it's my screen. That's why I kind of, in this case, it's too big of an application to see it on on my Mac, but I will probably prefer to see printed, and even I'll go with the prints to Rivington Square and spend some time there to review it. But again, this is in the spirit of making this application successful.
No, I
Because
appreciate, this is Frankie, I appreciate your comments for sure. And I'm taking notes down on the 3 pages we've discussed with comments. I don't know if Joanna, if you can move in closer at my gym and the adjacent tenant to the right, because I don't know if that brick texture is coming through, but I think Mr. Rosenkrantz is correct. I think you're both correct. I think we need to show that the intent is to paint the existing that's there so that there will be some texture. It won't be such a stark white that the rendering depicts. But at the same time, he may be right that we don't want it to be such a bright white. And we have so many different shades of whites and grays and neutral colors that maybe what's depicted right now is just coming across too stark. The other is, I think I understand what he's saying with the awning, and I'll play with that as well, that maybe our attempt to do something a little bit more upscale on this building and incorporate the red tone either needs to be carried all the way across so that we can get that constant element across the bottom, or that we've chosen the wrong awning and that it needs to be something perhaps a little darker, and it's not numerous colors in the awning, so that it creates a ground plane across the entire elevation, and then it lets the sign do its thing. Right now, I think what I'm understanding, Mr. Rosenkrantz, it's everything sort of competing for attention, whether it's the My Gym logo, the white background, the multicolored awning, and your eye doesn't know where to go.
well, thank you.
If I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's how I'm interpreting what you're saying. So if you tell me
you said it better than I.
I would tend to agree.
okay.
Both, yeah, that's great. A great suggestion for sure.
And I think a quick fix that we could resubmit.
Yeah.
Hmm?
So we may or may not have the same situation here, except here we've carried that awning all the way across, so we do get some continuity. And the stark white, the high reflective white that we're using carries through to the columns, where the color right next to it, which I think is PT8, that may be the one that we want to look at using on the other building. But I don't know, your opinion here on this one. Is it too bright for you as well?
It's a different context right here. On the hotel, we had, multiple floors, too much variation of materials. Here, it's a different context. Look, the reality is that you have to. There's another thing that's happening, that the boards of materials which you have under the image are the tones are different from the rendering. And I would even suggest that the sky even is creating interactions with the colors interaction. The color interaction is creating a faulty or a deceiving image. The materials that you use, the colors that you use under, are pretty nice, and I think they are good, but somehow they don't translate to the rendering properly. But that said,
I was also going to ask.
What I'm trying to say that the reality will look better than the renderings or the render elevations. But in any event, one thing is across the street from the other, and they work together. So there has to be, you want to create an ambience that is pleasant for the shoppers.
And I just wanted to ask a question also. So you're showing this awning material, and it seems that the scale of those stripes would be very far apart here. But in the other rendering, you're showing the stripes more close together, which I think would be more accurate to what you're going to see. Or maybe I'm wrong. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. But I just didn't imagine when I look at that fabric sample that those stripes are really like 4 feet apart. Is that accurate?
I believe so. I can double check on the run, but I think they are. But I can double check on that.
So I'm just was wondering about that, and also the way that they're depicted on this building. You have they're deeper, they're higher, and on the other building it's very shallow, so it's going to have a very different reading.
They will. The other building, we don't have much space because of the limited, we don't want to be something that people can hit with their hands or come in contact with the doors. And the sign band is much less. So the profile is much narrower here. There is an existing awning there now. So when you go on site to take a look, you'll see how narrow the profile is here versus on the other buildings. We've got a little bit more opportunity to showcase them.
Mm-hmm.
You thought of on the hotel utilizing flag signage as opposed to awnings and something that's a little more subtle in general?
When you say flag, do you mean like blade signs?
Yeah, something that's a little. I feel like the building reads differently than what would be some of the other buildings in the square. So I don't know.
You mean like a banner?
Like either a banner or a blade sign or some type of alternate signage approach that may not have it competing so much with what look like other like actual retail buildings, right? This doesn't read like a retail building because it's a hotel with retail at the base. The other ones are typically retail based, right? Or restaurants. So they serve a little bit of a different purpose. So I didn't know if maybe there's a different subtle way of being able to tie in signage in that building in comparison to some of the other buildings that aren't really like it, right? It's kind of its own type in the square there, right? So
I will be honest, we did not look at putting blade signs there. I actually like that idea. I can talk to Regency offline to see if that's something they'd like to look at. I know right now it's very easy to do because the tenants line up with the pilasters or take 2 bays within 2 or 3 pilasters. Sometimes that gets a little quirky if the lease line is in between pilasters, and so you get a bay and a half, and you argue who gets that pilaster to put the vertical sign on. But I don't disagree with you that for a little bit more urban feel and that it's not an inline retail building, that could be quite nice.
And Frankie, we have some blade signs at the Moms down below, right?
We do.
Okay.
So that actually could be quite nice on the pilasters.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
And also, I think Dino was trying to say something earlier. Is he able to speak as well? He was just bringing up something about the Buddha building and that it was a metal and not a wood, but I think we went over that already.
Yeah, that's the longboard product, which is metal. I guess next elevation. So we had started to, yeah, so here, again, we had shown this hasn't changed other than we placed the proper color nomenclature on the photographs.
I'm sorry, I muted for a second and missed that. Was there something I was gonna zoom in?
No, I just said that this hasn't changed. The photographs and the colors have not changed, just that we placed the proper nomenclature with the colors.
Mhm.
So I didn't know if there was any comment to this one or if it's just sort of, here it is. I guess next.
Well, that's actually the last one. The only thing we would have gone over is the murals, which we're not ready yet, and the signage, which we can address. I don't think the actual signage pylons will change. It's just the locations of which tenants get an actual blade sign within. But other than that, this is all we have to present today with regards to materials.
Yeah, I'm good. All right, just if we will receive some more material, I would assume. So just I think last time we spoke about lighting, make sure that the lighting complies with the ordinances of the village, and we always welcome as much landscape as possible, landscaping, which I believe you are going in that direction. And you know, I think I'm thinking of walking the site with the material that you're going to be submitting. I could welcome a social distanced walk with anybody that will join, because it will be good to see it at the place before the next hearing or before the next presentation. And with that, anybody want to make any other comments?
I think the suggestion of photos and other properties may serve you well to show what you're trying to accomplish, just because the renderings, like Ahrb was saying, don't really translate the color palette that you have on the screen below, right? So maybe some photos of where this type of application was applied and some of your other properties would be helpful as well.
Yeah, so I have something of a brick that shows the white. The only location that has the brick that would be applied is the EG building. So I can be sure to take some photos and maybe apply what that looks like. And we can discuss if there's anything else that's applicable to these specific renderings. And I will drop off those renderings tomorrow at that Dropbox. And if you'd like, I'm happy to join a social distance walkthrough at any point.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do that as well, Joanna and Mr. Rosenkrantz. So if it just works with everyone's schedule, just let me know.
Yes. Okay.
And
so
if we have physical
schedule.
samples, if we have physical samples as well, we can get them prior to that meeting.
Much preferred, because I have to say that I kind of like the awning that you guys are proposing and the colors, and to see the fabric the sample, the real sample. I don't think that you can digitalize. Bless you, Brandon. Anyway, so let's start by dropping off the revised material, get and coordinate social distance walk through Dan or through emails, and I'm available. We have flexible week. I have a flexible week,
Great. I have an email with everyone's email on it, and I'm going to forward this PDF that we have following this meeting, and then I'll drop those off tomorrow. And just wanted to reiterate, the lighting does address the downward lighting if you see here, so it doesn't have any upward lighting that would affect any ordinances. But talk to Frankie, and you have my email following this, and Frankie's and everybody else on, and we're happy to coordinate what works.
Okay, makes sense.
Chairman, we do have somebody with their hand raised.
Okay.
I'm going to allow them to speak.
Please.
Lee, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you state your name and your address?
Lee Constantine, the Rivertown Square.
Thank you.
You sure all know who I am by now. I just want to make some quick comments. I received a certified letter to join in for any comments tonight. I just wanted to say that the pylon reference number 1647 A-215, cars that will be exiting the parking lot on Stanley will have their view obscured of cars, cyclists, pedestrians, pets, baby strollers, children, etc. when looking to their right. This sign will create a dangerous situation and the village needs to find a better solution. Also, sign A2113 on Hamilton, along with sign A2112, also on Hamilton, must be positioned where it does not obstruct driver visibility. You also have street graphics, A216, quote, walk this way, unquote. Is that sign on public property or is that private property? Yes, where that sign will be.
So this is actually a part of a Board of Trustees meeting that we will have following this. This is public property, and actually all of the signs I think you referenced, we will be sure to address concerns in the Board of Trustees meeting to make sure that we're in compliance and that these all work with the right-of-ways and pedestrians. So we definitely hear your concern.
Yeah, because I think public roadways should stick with traditional signage that's really approved by DOT. To me, this is a distracting sign where you're in a crosswalk, there's a stop sign, there's people going around. It seems like a wrong place to put something like this. I don't think it's necessary. It should be restricted to a crosswalk with not all this type of graphics in it. You know, and not as a billboard, you know.
Yeah, we
Make
definitely,
it safe,
the only
because
focus of it, just so you understand, the only reason why we were trying to highlight it is because no one actually walks this way. They actually cross over, and we have many instances where we have to redirect people crossing over in a very unsafe way. So we were just trying to apply something.
Yeah. But I think traditionally, I mean, crosswalks are more universal. That you see a crosswalk, we all know we got to stop for that person. This is a lot going on here. This looks like it's just signage, and it doesn't really, by the time you read it and decide on the graphics, you're slamming through as a driver. So I don't think that's that workable. I mean, maybe if it was like more in like, you know, like the sidewalking privately more, but it's just too much going on there, and it's a very unsafe area to begin with. And I also want to mention another thing. I know someone mentioned earlier, one of the speakers, about there was a sign you may want to move or negate because it's maybe too close to Chauncey Square. But I feel as though all this, that the private house there has been ignored by both the planners here and the village board. You know, you're putting that huge sign, it's probably, I don't know, 20 feet, can't really tell, right there. And how do we back out and we see people? I mean, I think it's just too big for where it needs to, where you want it to go. So I don't think that's a viable solution. I mean, I think we should be on board with whatever you want to do down there and not have issues where it's done and then it's too late. I mean, we're also dealing with lighting. We have not been able to resolve with Regency. We weren't able to resolve it with River Towns and Regency, whereby the lighting code is completely, it's illegal, the lighting code. The lighting that's there is completely illegal against the code. And we have addressed it in every which way you could think of, spoke to Regency. We're also having the issue with Verizon. That light shines all the way in the house. That light needs to go. And first of all, I don't think the part that you're not supposed to have that kind of signage mid-block. So I think that's another issue. So we did deal with Verizon. They seem to be unwilling to turn it off at night. So that's
Verizon has nothing to do with this application.
I didn't make a statement that it did, but I'm saying that if we're already dealing with a lot of other lighting issues that the village doesn't seem to resolve. So now you want to take on another lighting project, and how are you going to resolve that when we can't resolve one that's been going on for 10 plus years?
Oh, and we understand, Ms. Constantine, we have actually, if you see here, the lighting where I am circling, it's the white downward lighting. And I do hear you on the previous installed lighting by the developer. So
okay.
We plan to make some adjustments to the lighting to make
we
it
appreciate that, and we're happy to work with them, happy to do a social distance meeting down there as well. And that way we can work together, because you may not really be aware of the issues that we face, you know, because you're looking at it from a different perspective, and we're trying to look at it from your perspective, our perspective, the general populace perspective, the safety. I mean, I know just backing out of the driveway there, in between the dogs, the strollers, the people, I mean, it's really gotten a lot, and I just can't imagine putting up that huge sign right there. And also about the dumpsters that were originally supposed to go where the so-called picnic tables are to be now. I'm wondering where the dumpster will go.
Why
That
don't
was
we,
approved in, wait,
Yes.
hold on.
why
That
don't we
was
look at
approved-
this on the walk?
Excuse me, that was approved in the findings and the FEIS and findings.
Right,
And
right.
apparently what we
But
looked at.
those are things
All right.
that are, this is
All right,
this is a
Please
continuation.
don't cut me off. I haven't cut anybody off. I've been listening patiently tonight.
Right, we limit
but
the comments, so.
What
because
I want, but
we
you
have
know,
other people,
finish my
please,
comment.
just be
Why
brief,
can't I
please.
finish?
Be brief.
I want to say one other additive about the dumpster.
But
We
the
are,
dumpster is not the architectural review board purview. So let's be brief, please.
Right. It has
Well, I
nothing to do with
wanna
this
say that-
application. We're done.
well, I don't know about that because I don't know why you have it. That's part of it. If you're talking about tables.
Okay.
Thanks, Constantine, we definitely hear your concern, and we're happy, and I'm also happy to meet you on site to discuss some things. I know that a
Okay.
lot of the items are separate and apart from this application, but we'd love to entertain any opportunity to
Yeah,
meet.
yeah, because I'm just looking at as a whole that you're doing a massive project. You're not just limited to the mom sign or the one-way, whatever sign. So that's why I was just incorporating, because we're looking at dumpster, small garbage trash. It's about at least 10 times a day that they go back and forth with these dumpsters. So from our windows and our site, we're seeing all these little garbage dumpsters. And that wasn't the original plan that was approved.
Okay.
Not to mention the smell of it.
I know that's separate and apart, and I
Okay.
don't want to take this opportunity to discuss it, but just so you know, we would love to resolve a trash issue here and make it more conducive for all of us, because we spend an obscene amount of money on trash. We'll definitely would love to talk to you about that
Okay,
separately.
that'd be great.
Well, thank you.
All right.
So let's continue this application and just to repeat what we said, you're going to submit some more material, upload some more information. We try to schedule a social distance walk. I make a motion to continue this application. Do I have a second? Dale seconds. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next application is on the agenda is.
Thank you all very much. Have a great night. Thank you.
all. Sorry, let me just. The next application is 83 Stanley Avenue, the Mom's
Straight.
Organic Market sign.
Tracy
Hold on
Becker.
1 second. Yep, I'm putting her on right now. Tracy, can you hear us?
There we go. I can hear you, yes.
Okay, good.
Let's start. There we go. I have my desktop ready to share if you need a color version of the drawings at all. And I will, so I dropped off actually the two pieces of the letters, I should say. I dropped off the apple top and an M to the lobby police counter. So I don't.
Yes, I have them here.
Is
Okay,
it possible to see the color application?
sure. Let me share my screen. Here you go.
Thank you.
So this is the main sign over the parking entrance. So actually one of those M's and the green leaf portion of the apple. That's what you have in the office there. I tried to make a sample board, but all of these materials are very specific, something that we stock normally, which is why I ended up just dropping off the letter. I figured that would be the easiest way for you to see what we're proposing, because you have the actual letter.
Okay.
So the bottom portion, the Mom's Organic Market, will match the green leaf portion, and that's a push through. The background does not light up. The white letters, the edges of the white letters light up, so it's kind of like a halo illumination for those letters. Attachment details for those pieces. And then this is to the right of the entry door. It's kind of somewhat underneath in the parking garage. So the mom letters are similar to the larger letters. The bottom panel is the same. And then the welcome to are acrylic pin mount letters, so those do not illuminate.
Okay.
And that's what that page. Then there's, I believe, 2 Mom's Organic parking signs that will be placed, parking spaces adjacent to the market. And then the electric car charging signs, there are 2 of them. This photograph was provided to us by Moms. It is not on the property at all. It took me a good couple of hours to but it is
just to understand, this it's on the parking, which is the covered parking, correct? All the signage?
Yes, it's in the covered parking underneath, correct. So this is the site plan that shows where here. So this is the area where the charging stations are going to be. So that's where those 2 signs will be.
Okay.
This area is where the main sign is over the entry.
Okay.
And then, whoops, sorry about that. Then this sign right here is by the entry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. Right.
You have any questions for me?
No, I think it's a very clear application for me. Brandon, Dale, any comments?
Can you just go back to the elevation at the entry with the main sign?
That.
So just so I'm aware, so the Mom's Market above, on top, there will be another one directly below it against the wall at the entry as well?
Right about here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My only question is about the apple top and the fact that the sign seems to go off of the band that it's anchored to.
Yeah,
You know that it
looks like a flying scarf, right?
Right. It just seemed, I don't know what that top band is, if that's the brick again that's going to be painted whatever new color it is. I just wonder if, in terms of the scale of the facade and the sign, if it might be a little smaller, but that's my question back to the team.
Right there, some of those colors are changing up there.
Right. So it's sort of not anchored, and that's what I was questioning. It pops off of the field that it's associated with.
Right, and I do think that leaf is supposed to be like a scarf, like you just mentioned. You know, a bit whimsical, I suppose.
I think it's fine. I think the green and the red are timeless colors, so will work with anything almost.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the color. I'm just wondering though, if I look at the space from the bottom of the sign to the M at the top of the sign and the top of the apple, I guess I want something to sort of relate. Like I want those M's and at least the bottom of the sign to sort of be anchored in that white band. So whether it's like, 6 inches less or something, am I Am I being a little fussy here?
We are showing it to be equal distant from the top of the leaf to the top of the brick area and the bottom of the Mom's Organic Market to the bottom of the white area. I mean, will be equal.
I think to Dale's point, I think it seems like, I mean, it relates to the overall elevation, but it doesn't take into account the band itself, right? It kind of just, it's oriented based off of what you just talked about from a dimension standpoint on top and bottom, and not doesn't really account. I mean, it's a signage band for a reason. Why it's
Right.
assigned,
Well,
right?
I think it's also taking into account that it will be painted. I believe it's painted a lighter color.
Right.
So in effect, that sign band is stretched.
So that might be, I think that's where there's a little bit of some, not confusion, but there's another program underway, right, that this needs to take into account.
Right.
Right.
Even in the new program, though, it still has a different color band. They're showing that sign band and then like a separation above it, like it is now.
So I'm trying to draw this crudely, but I'm just wondering if there's like a space below and above here that at least the mom floats a little bit more. Oops, sorry. What I'm suggesting is that there's like a band here and here, that it just wants to compress maybe a little bit, but that's sort of my notion.
So do you want to see the entire, the leaf of the apple and everything fit within that area? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No?
No, I'm just saying that if I can draw a box around the entire, let me try this. I'm just saying that the mom piece just floats a little bit more in that area. The apple still goes up above and the leaf still goes up above, but it just gets pulled in a little bit. That's my notion on it.
Okay.
To keep
Anybody
all the
else
red maybe
think that?
inside.
To keep the red of the M's cleanly inside the field, even if the
Correct.
apple pops above it.
Okay.
Can you see my sketch?
I can, yes. I will have to check with our client because I think at the scale that I mean, obviously we'd have to scale it down a bit in order to
It's
do
just
that.
a slight amount. It's just a very slight amount, just so that the paint color, that the M's and the band, they're floating in it, that they don't just run up against the next color.
Okay.
I see Dale's comments as improving the strength of this signage, and not only that, it's going to be more visible from the road. It's going to
it'll pop off the color.
Yeah.
You might just be able to take the sign as it is and shift it down a few inches. It may work that way also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's really no relation to the bottom of it in comparison to the top.
No,
right? When you try and
I think Brandon, it has to do also with the I don't know what color is the gray band that goes like
exactly.
It kind of gets lost.
Right.
It's
okay.
So if you help, what Dale is proposing, it will help anchor the moms.
It'll pop it out.
Yeah, the pop out.
Yeah,
right.
I can absolutely see that. Okay. Let me, I don't know if you are considering approving it with that stipulation or if you'd like to see another rendering of that.
Well, let's look at, I think everybody is in agreement that is a welcoming improvement to what is there now. All other signs that we discuss, we can approve.
That's fine.
Whether it's in, that one in that area or the parking area, that's no problem. And either version of what you're proposing on the front signage, it will be approved, but we like to see it before we approve it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
Okay.
I can make a motion to approve all the signage on the parking area, and expecting a revised version of the
We
front.
could, we could continue it also because this won't be issued. They don't have a building permit or anything
Oh,
yet for this.
okay.
So the sign
Right.
permit won't be issued until the building permit's
Okay,
issued.
so let's do this. Let's continue this application until the next.
Correct, so we have the right drawings.
We have the
Okay.
right drawings, and it will get approved, I think.
Okay, so that'll be the 22nd, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Do I have a second to continue the application? So
Second.
then seconds, all in favor.
All
Thank
in
you.
favor.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we go to the next application, which is, I believe, 1 Myrtle, right? Yes, 1 Myrtle Avenue.
Jen,
Yes,
this is gonna be Patty,
I am. I'm going Patty, Adam.
Bart,
Okay.
Ed
Bart.
Laird,
That's it, right?
yeah, I don't know who Ann is. That's it for now, I think.
Okay.
Adam is on. Yep.
Hi, can you hear me?
Patty, you're on twice. That's probably why you're hearing a.
I got to deal with this.
Okay, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Although I heard better on that one, but I work better on this one. So, well, it'll work.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for having us on short notice and for stopping by our property on Saturday. My wife is going to join. She's putting the baby down to sleep, so she might join us in a moment if we're still going. But just some background on the project. I know Patty's been in these meetings a couple times. This is our first time joining because we're proposing a change. Our background. So we moved to Dobbs Ferry a little over 2 years ago, actually just 2 weeks before our daughter was born. And along with that, my wife's mom moved in with us and has been living in our house. So we, not long after that, we engaged Patty to talk to us about some options to create some additional space for, probably some somewhat obvious reasons in terms of wanting to give my mother-in-law and my wife's mom a little bit of privacy and space in the home. So that led us to engage Patty and design kind of, this picture you're looking at. Those of you that have been here have seen it. But essentially off, the side of the building coming towards us is where the garage structure is, with an apartment over it, which is where my mother-in-law Kathy would live. So the history on the project is, we had, and Patty might need to fill in some of the blanks here, but we had an original design that we really liked. That Patty, I think, maybe based on past experience with the board, thought you all might think was too large. So we ended up kind of going with a bit of a smaller layout. And I think the big compromise at the time was the roof that would be on the right side if you're looking straight up our driveway from Myrtle, kind of drops off quite sharply and becomes not usable space underneath it. So anyways, this is our first house, our first time doing a construction project. So we kind of, went along with Patty's guidance on submitting that. But where we're at now in the project with framing and you could kind of see it when it was being put in, that it would just look very kind of off center and not symmetrical. So, you know, we saw that framing go in, and, you know, that afternoon called Patty and Bart and said, you know, we think this really just doesn't look right. We don't feel comfortable with where things are going, and we don't think the space is going to be as usable as we'd like it to be, because you're, you know, cutting off a few hundred square feet of what would be usable space. So we had Patty redraw the plans and submit those a couple weeks back. So, you know, and the issues, and I think you guys saw it while you were here, is the plan that's currently approved is very not symmetrical in terms of how the roof is. The way that we're doing it now is completely symmetrical, and I think just looks a lot better while being on the same exact footprint as previously. And, you know, we've talked to our neighbors that have a view of the house. So the Sullivans, who live directly across from us on Myrtle, and then Serge Casarda, who lives, I guess, behind our property on Washington. And, you know, both of them feel comfortable. I know, I think they both sent letters as well, just sharing their support for the project and the slight alteration that we're requesting. So that's what brought us here today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
sounds good. You want me to walk you through the drawings? You guys can see my screen?
Yeah, Brandon and Dale haven't been at the walkthrough.
Yeah.
Quite unsure.
You know, Dipti was there. Did she give any letter or anything that supported this? Because she seemed very happy with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so should I start?
What we discuss is what we discussed on Saturday. You can.
Yeah. So let me take you through. You know, basically Adam laid it out exactly as it transpired. It was actually less than 2 weeks ago. It's moved very quickly. This was the site plan that we got approved. In this site plan, I'm going to point out a number of different things in addition to what we talked about. Bart was able to, the contractor was able to, working on the site, eliminate the need for this retaining wall, as well as these retaining walls behind the building. So in terms of the impact we're having, we actually have made some good cuts. And I think you'll see some photos that I've got that I think show that all that comes out really, really nicely. So this is what we submitted for this meeting. But even since then, what we've done is we have updated that with where we're doing the planting beds. So there's going to be a very nice landscaped plan around the pool, behind the trees that are there, and then coming up the right-hand side of the driveway. So I think it's going to sit in really well. I think we couldn't have been luckier with the way the rock on the site worked. Instead of being something that was an obstacle that affected us adversely, it actually created a wonderful rock garden behind the garage, which I think has really turned out well. So this is the plan that was approved, and this is the plan that has been built. The garage is all the same. The only difference is that here, when we realized that we didn't have rock that we were cutting, we needed to actually build more of a finished looking retaining wall. So we did this with concrete. This is being stuccoed to match the rest of the house. So when you come in through this way, this all feels very finished instead of feeling like it is, you know, in this one, it was all dry stone wall. And we were able to build the stairs. And again, I've got photos of that. As Adam said, this is the house that we started with the idea that we're building to the right side, coming off the back. So it's this area that we're attaching to. And as you can see, there's a number of roofs here that we have to work hard to blend in with exactly right. And that's a little bit of a challenge, but I think we've got it worked out. So this was the plan that you approved a year ago, almost to the day. So this is what Adam was talking about, was that we originally had this roof coming over to here, and in deference to the board's concerns about the scale, we cut this off, which reduced it. When we got this part framed up and we were starting to do this, Adam and Kendall came out and made it very clear that that was not going to work for them. It wasn't like they were disappointed because they had another vision. They hated it. So it prompted us to go back to where we were at. So we went literally back almost to where we were, except this does still reflect all the other cuts that we made. For example, we originally had an entrance to this. We had a staircase going up.
What we are looking is what we are submitting.
This was, no, I'm going to walk you through it, Ahrb. This
No,
was
but-
what was submitted.
but-
And then I did a revised one that I shared with you. And then you and I at the site walk had conversation. So we've reduced that further.
Okay.
So we got this down to the minimum that we can,
Okay.
respecting all the way these roofs work. So we've tucked this down more, and as you see, it'll work out. This profile here on the end is almost the exact same profile as on the existing house.
Okay.
So what we've done is effectively brought that through. Although we did have to make all these other things work, we had to tie it together with an extension up above here, which you'll see in a minute. So here's what's on the house now. So we're coming right off of that. This edge will be in the new addition. This dormer will be in. This one doesn't actually extend over because what we've done is copied this so that we're bringing that out to give a separation, which you'll see in a minute on the back with the other drawings. Here's the photos that I took today of where we are with this. You can see that this dormer was what we had before. This was the middle. None of the to the right has been built yet. Because obviously we wanted to have you guys make a decision on that before we build anything. But I think you'll be able to see how these things have all been tied together. So here's the existing roof, here's the roof. All of this will be a continuous roof coming straight across. And this will all blend in. So this will all feel like it's exactly the, an extension coming out from the house. We kept this height coming up. This is pretty much what we had before, same windows. So all of that carries across. What will happen now, if you guys agree, is this roof will continue out on this side. And from this corner of the garage here to the corner of the garage that I can't really get to because your pictures are in the way, that all becomes a symmetrical facade, which is what Adam and Kendall asked us to do. And Bart actually framed this up so they could see it and understand how that works. But here you can kind of see too how this all comes through and it ties things together. When we first talked about this with you over a year ago, one of the concerns I think came from the way that the two-dimensional drawings made everything look like this was very overpowering on the front of the house. But I think that was a confusion with the drawing because the reality is this sets back to exactly the right space, creating this courtyard in front, and it forms a very, very nice L, so things tie together. This ridge is actually at this ridge, and those things, it all carries across well. Here's the back. This is the portion that we'd be hoping to continue this line on this side, have the elevation that is over on the existing building on this end, which I think will tie everything together really nicely. Here's coming around further. This section, there's another dormer here. One other change I should point out is we originally had 2 dormers on the back, but I think it works better with just the one dormer here that aligns with the one on the front and keeping this roof as it is, and then the big cross gable. Here we go, some more coming across it. Here's where you're able to see how those stairs work in with the retaining wall. And if I go down to a next shot, you can see how we were able to expose the rocks in the back and use the existing ledge as a retaining wall behind. So this will be the terrace. This is where the door is. So they'll be able to come up on the outside and come in there. And it's also connected on the second floor as, just an extension of the second floor. Here's that end of the house that we're carrying across. This I don't like at all, but I'm not going to do anything about it. But this kind of shows you how these other roofs kind of tie together in much the same way that what we're trying to do. So here's the drawing that was approved last year. This shows the 2 smaller dormers on the back with the 1 cross gable. This is where that space is underneath that you can walk through. And so this was the drawing that we submitted to you. We did the reversion of that to cut it down, and then after the site walk, it cut down further. So we've got that. So it's just enough for it to work. If I take you up to this left-hand drawing at the top, you can see what we're doing. This edge here, that aligns exactly with the roof on the existing house, continuing that line across. This goes up only to the height necessary that at the same pitch, it comes down and sits on the ridge at that point. You know, what we've done is actually very simplified the framing dramatically so that this is really a fairly straightforward roof with these other elements sitting on top of it, tying it into the house. Let's see, these were drawings that weren't in the original set a year ago, but I've included them here. This is what we started with last Thursday when we submitted. We've cut it down once, and then we cut it down again. So all of this has now been brought down to effectively as low as we can get it. And then we go through the same on this. This was the drawing that we submitted a week ago Thursday, which showed a symmetrical ridge above the frame that's actually the structure. What we did is that interim one has this coming up aligning with the roof on the front, with this coming over right on the back side of the ridge. And then when we had the site walk and talked about it more, we realized that if we moved that and tuck it in, we could just have this small piece of it, which on the back, I think ties it together front, and it still does what it needs to do in the back. It still does what it needs to do on the front. So I think that is, well, no, I've got a couple others. These are views from the neighbors. This isn't actually Serge's, but it's close to the view that Serge gets looking down on the house. This is the view from the driveway that goes up to serves the other houses that are to the east of the house. And then this is standing on Myrtle looking up at the house. You know, this is over here is the whole kind of front of the house facing it. This really feels like it sets back in and it ties across. I think it's going to work out really, really nicely. And I think that is it. So any questions you got?
Well, thank you. Clear. First, I just want to make sure that Adam, you're satisfied with the latest proposal?
Yeah, we are. We think it makes just a lot more sense in terms of the design, and then just makes the space more usable. You know, inside. It's a big project for us, so we want to get the most.
Just want to make a couple of things. I don't have a problem with the extending the same configuration of the roof to the right of the centerpiece. The only comment I will make is that it was too large is not a consideration. Appropriate scale is what we look for, and I think that it's not scaled, and appropriateness to the existing house is what we were trying to achieve when we reduced the overpowering of the house, of the existing house, because we believe that at that point that the house was, there were values or design of the original house that were the merit some considerations. So in other words, what we were trying to avoid is to have like a three-car garage being the front of the house, and more and a balanced proposal. So that was what we discussed last Saturday when we met, and I think it's clear. I don't know if symmetrical is the right word to use here, but a more balanced approach to the existing to the proposed. The nature of your original house is not symmetrical. So this type of design is based on asymmetries, which gives the qualities that we all like of your house. So that said, I don't have a problem with what Pat is proposing. And with that, I can move to the next comments. If Brandon, Dale, any other comments?
Can you go back to the pictures of the front of the effective new front of the house, which is the garage?
Are the photographs?
Yeah. Of the existing, of the frame, as it's framed now.
Right. This one? Or do you want me to
Yes.
get closer?
So the roof line that's there now that connects to the existing, that's the state in which it'll continue across on the right-hand side, correct?
Well, here, if you look right up here on this, you can see what happens is that this comes up and the ridge that's, that's balanced between the front and the back that works with all the framing, it's a couple of feet back from this ridge.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're carrying this up and then we're coming back down to sit on that ridge so that what'll happen is it will be, it'll tie it all together seamlessly and you won't have, right now, if you didn't do that, you'd have an awkward condition, which granted it's technically on the back of the house, but I'd still like to have it all tied together so it really looks good.
It's also much taller in that regard.
Well, it's, when you say much taller, it's not as tall as the ridge on the house. It carries across. I think, when you actually stand at the house, you feel that this doesn't feel like it's overpowering in any way whatsoever. It also feels really good the way that this sets back from the entrance, from the front of the house. It creates the original intent that we were going for, where it really feels like a nice courtyard in front of the house.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with extending to the right, and creating that structure that kind of sits over, what was that retaining wall? To the right, like the far right-hand side of this photo.
Yeah.
Which is what I think the homeowner was having the biggest issue with, right? In terms of symmetry, quote unquote.
Right. Well, and
Right?
it actually, from corner to corner, it is symmetrical above the garage. So
Which is fine. I understand that. And I can, but I have a little, I think the biggest part of what we were talking about was just the height of the new addition portion, right? And that roof line and that structure just being taller, right? And my concern wasn't necessarily reducing the right-hand side of that or above the garage. It was more the overall height of the roof line, right?
right.
Even at the back and how it tied in. So
Right. Well, that's why after the site walk, that's why we did a rework on it over the weekend for today and got it down so it's the absolute minimum that we really can kind of fit in there. If you look at that section.
Well, the minimum on a, the minimum from it's relative, right? Because what you're proposing, I understand, Patty, right? But at the same time, I think the condition at the back to the woods, right, that nobody ever sees, which is already broken up into pieces, basically, right? The part that you're can't or aren't going to touch anyways, right?
Yeah, it's all very clean though now on the back. It really ties together nicely.
Hmm.
And you get this, you see here on this where next to the house, that
just looks,
comes all the way down.
I think the 2Ds aren't helping you again, right? Because it just looks like a structure sitting on top of another one adjacent to a
But at
connector.
the side, it looks great.
That's, I don't know.
Yeah, I think like our view too, like if you're standing at the bottom of our driveway on Myrtle and like looking up, right, like the highest peak is actually at the front of the house. So it looks set back pretty significantly and, from the entrance to the home.
I have
Go ahead, Dave.
I have only one thing to add. I think the expansion of the house looks fine. I think the drop bridge is an improvement. The thing that troubles me is the column that's dead center of the great space that you've just created.
Oh, that's a placeholder. One of the things, what we haven't done yet is worked out on the inside. We've actually got 3 different ways that we've looked at doing it in terms of where the bedroom goes, how the bathroom works. In fact, Adam and Kendall haven't seen the latest plan of that, which does what they asked us to do on Saturday, which is to move the bedroom to the end. What we'll have in that space, wherever it ends up being, whether it's the 2 bays to the right or the 2 bays to the left, the main room will not have a post in the middle of it. It's just to keep us from forgetting that we're going to have to provide additional
Okay.
structure. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. So look, I share the concern of Brandon, but I don't think it's worth fighting for, because the reality is that you're not gonna feel it because of the condition of the site. Looking it from the front or from the street, it's gonna be reduced to the perspective to almost nothing, and creates a little tension of the left to the right. There is some playfulness on the roof line, so might add to it. It's something that we will find out. I don't think it's necessary per se, but I don't mind it. I will go with the proposed now, and I'm okay with the revisions as they were presented. If I don't see the dimensions, but they were limited to a couple of feet, you said.
Yeah.
So that's, if we stay within those parameters, I think it's fine. I don't know how you feel, Brandon, about this, but I'm okay to go ahead to make a vote.
It's set back far enough where I'm not really I'm not too concerned.
Right. So I'll make a motion to approve as submitted, and just to go ahead with this proposal. Sorry, do I have a second? Dale, seconds.
Yes.
Favor. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So we make a motion. I think there is no more comments, no neighbors. That's all. Okay. So I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. We have a second.
Second.
And Brendan seconds. All in favor. Good night. Stay healthy, and see you next time.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, John.